Hi there, welcome back to Francionista's YouTube channel and my series, my 6-part video series on the abolitionist approach to animal rights. This is video 4 and we'll cover principle 4 of the 6 principles. I won't read principles 1, 2, and 3 again. There's videos out there. I'll put a link to them so you can read them, but I do hope that if you are watching this that you're familiarizing yourself with all of them, starting from number 1. And I do think that any advocate for justice, nonviolence, and veganism has an obligation to at least consider these principles. That's the way I feel about it. So I'm going to move straight into principle 4. We recognize that we will not abolish overnight the property status of non-humans, but we will support only those campaigns and positions that explicitly promote the abolitionist agenda. We will not support positions that call for a supposedly improved regulation of animal exploitation. We reject any campaign that promotes sexism, racism, heterosexism, or other forms of discrimination against humans. Obviously, that ties into the beautiful principle 3. It's sad that we actually have to put that into words with relation to vegan advocacy, but we do. The fact of the matter is, as I mentioned when I was talking in my last video about principle 3, there are plenty of campaigns that use discriminatory practices against other humans in their supposed campaigning for, well, they're not even campaigning for veganism. For example, PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, has campaigns where they use naked women, and it's an anti-fur campaign. These women, as far as I know, none of them are vegan. They're not promoting veganism. They're just promoting not using fur, which is a single issue campaign, which is not abolitionist because it is speciesist. So it singles out fur above other animal products, makes it seem like fur is worse. I had a conversation once with an advocate about that. A vegan at my store was quite recently, actually. Okay, I won't go into that now. I'll just stick with the principle. All right. So principle 4 ties into principle 3 in that we reject campaigns that promote sexism, racism, or heterosexism, or anything like that, because principle 3 and because the basis of justice and nonviolence and being opposed to discrimination means you don't engage in discrimination. There's no good cause for discrimination. There's no excuse for it. You don't need to use discrimination to get public attention. You don't need to use sexism to attract people to your campaign. In fact, what you're going to do is make a mockery of animal rights, and you're going to present as hypocritical, discriminatory position to the public, which is, I don't want anything to do with that. I reject those totally and outright. I don't have anything to do with the PETA campaigns. They had a striptease, once a striptease for animal rights. I mean, I'm just learning now about radical feminism and the history of patriarchy and the feminist movement, and it has fueled my opposition. I consider myself a student of radical feminism. I'm certainly not as informed as I'd like to be. I wish that there was 6 principles of radical feminism, nice and concise, but I'm learning about that. But anyway, the bottom line is, if you think about it, why are you going to objectify women to as a way to supposedly have a justice message of why it's wrong to objectify animals and use them for fur or whatever it is that you're doing? So, yeah. Okay, so very important first sentence for everybody. I want everybody to pay attention. We recognize that we will not abolish overnight the property status of non-humans. We don't expect to do it overnight. We never said we did. Okay? I doubt very much that the abolitionists against race-based slavery expected to abolish human race-based slavery overnight, but they were still an abolitionist movement, and everything they said and did was working towards the abolition of slavery, not the regulation of it. So, as far as I'm concerned, I really mostly, how can I put this? there are plenty of people who are taking the word abolition and saying that their campaign is abolitionist in nature. They're taking the dictionary meaning of the campaign. Dictionary meaning of the word abolition. When I'm talking about abolition on these videos and in my advocacy, I'm talking about the abolitionist approach to animal rights. Gary Francione's theory of abolition as developed over the last 20 years in his writings, in his books, in his podcasts, in his website, and in these 6 principles. I don't go just by the dictionary meaning because, for example, I have seriously had people seriously suggest to me that a campaign to abolish cages and put hens in a barn, or whatever the alternative was, is an abolitionist campaign because we're going to abolish cages. Or a campaign against seal clubbing is an abolitionist campaign because ostensibly it wants to abolish seal clubbing. So I don't, you have to be careful with that. It's a buzzword. Everybody wants to, for some reason, everybody wants to call themselves an abolitionist while they're hating on abolitionists. So I don't quite understand that. I think that there's a problem with words and people's egos get involved, but I'm not going to even worry too much. It's just like a warning. It's just like be aware, because when we talk about the abolitionist approach to animal rights, it's based on these principles. So abolitionist campaigns have veganism as the moral baseline, and they reject speciesism and heterosexism and all these other things. They definitely don't have anything to do with these single issue campaigns that, especially, they're so xenophobic a lot of the time, the single issue campaigns. I mentioned that a little bit in the other video, such as the whale, the Seal Shepherd Group's video, TV show, or about the whales. I mean, the seal clubbing one is it's mostly Canadians who do that, so I'm not sure if it's as racist as, for example, the campaigns about countries in Asia who eat dogs. There's hatred and total racism involved, and this is from people who eat lambs and cows and sheep. So it just fuels these. It just fuels this the discrimination that we're trying to abolish as part of our beyond veganism approach, where we want justice for all, and the abolition of violence and discrimination. So the feeding into patriarchy and the objectification of women, that is not abolitionist. I don't care if you're trying to abolish fur. It's not an abolitionist campaign. It's definitely not in line with the 6 principles. And there's a reason why these are written down, and I think it's important for us to think about it in terms of theory, in terms of what are we actually doing, how crucial it is. The stakes are very, very high, and it's principle 4. We're not going to abolish it overnight, but we only support abolitionist advocacy. At the moment, animals are property legally. Their property is widely accepted. The way to abolish that is for everyone to go vegan and stop using animals, and to abolish their property status. I'm very much more informed, very much better informed about law when it comes to non-human animals from reading Gary Francione's books, but I'm certainly not an expert in legislature or politics or anything like that. But it goes without saying that if the population of the world stopped consuming the products of animal exploitation, that is really the only way that we're going to abolish the legal property status. There may be people who still try to get away with it. Like, there are people who try to get away with child abuse, and do get away with it, but that doesn't mean that we turn around and say, oh, we might as well just make it legal again because people are going to try to get away with it. No, we recognize as a global community that it is wrong to abuse children. And so that's why it's very, very important when we say explicitly promote the abolitionist agenda. At this moment, you just need to think about campaigning for veganism unequivocally. Veganism unequivocally. If you're out there protesting a circus, that is not an abolitionist campaign. It's a single issue campaign. And I would suggest it is a bad idea to try to take a vegan message to any single issue campaign that is mainstream, because they're generally tied in with welfarist groups who are presenting a very speciesist agenda, perpetuating speciesism, entrenching animals in the property paradigm, which is what I talked about in my first two videos where I talked about principles 1 and 2. So for me, if there's a circus protest in town, I'm not going to associate myself with it as a vegan, because I don't want to associate veganism and abolition, which is what I'm about, with a speciesist single issue campaign. I'm not going to go there and present the view that this is what veganism is about. It's about a circus campaign. People say, oh, I'm going to go there and hand out vegan literature. I hand out vegan literature all the time in the street. You don't need a circus campaign to do it. Just find a way to do it. And we're doing a podcast about that. It's called Vegan Education Radio, and we've done our first episode. And the episode that I'm really excited about, we haven't recorded it yet, is how to do what we have done in order to get ourselves out there and do street stalls for vegan advocacy. We didn't invent the idea of tabling or street stalling, but most of the time it's controlled and organized by these big welfarist groups, and they've been doing it for many, many years, and there's other people do it all the time. So we're basically, because we are a small movement at the moment, although we are growing worldwide, we are outnumbered still, sadly. A lot of the time you're going to have to get out there and do it yourself. You cannot wait for the vegans in your community to do it. They're not going to do it, sadly. More of them are, but you need to do it. So that's what it's about. So if there's a circus protest in town and the welfarist group is there and all these non-vegans are there acting like this, it's worse for the circus, but they're going to go home and eat a steak, and it's like it's better, or it's not as important or something like that. I'm not going to go anywhere near that campaign. I'm going to have my vegan abolitionist stall, and I'm going to educate people about veganism. And if they mention the circus to me, I'm going to present to them the same argument that I present to everybody about all discrimination and all violence and all oppression. So I distance myself as much as I possibly can from these non-abolitionist groups. I definitely distance abolition from them, but I also try to explain to people that veganism is not about not going to the circus. It includes not going to the circus, but that's not what it's all about. So when vegans are wearing these stickers or going to these single issue campaigns, they're associating veganism with this single issue thing. I don't think that's a good idea. So I totally agree with obviously all of these principles, and I definitely agree and follow principle 4 when I'm an advocate and when I'm promoting other advocates. And when I'm engaging in advocacy and deciding what I'm going to do with my time, what am I going to do with my mouse clicks and my voice and with my street table and with my websites or my podcasts or my videos, what am I going to do? I'm going to do abolitionist vegan education, and that is not single issue campaigns, it's most certainly not regulation, and it definitely does not engage in heterosexism or sexism or racism or any other kind of discrimination against humans. I would hope that that would be an attractive thing to everybody. It's certainly something that I completely feel comfortable with and love being a part of and recognize as the right thing to do. So it's a very, very easy thing to incorporate when you're out there campaigning for justice. There's no hypocrisy, which is a nice change from all of our lives. I was not vegan when I was born. I was not raised vegan. This is, I'm sort of a late starter, but it's better late than never. And so I think that these are really, really important. So I'm really grateful to anyone who watched and who's reading the 6 principles and thinking about them critically and exploring them. Anytime you open your mouth as an advocate, think back to these and why and what are you doing and what are you presenting and what are your reasons for doing what you're doing, and think if it's a good thing to do or not. It's really going to be up to you in that moment. But I'm just trying to really get people to go and consider these concepts. So thank you so much for watching again, and I hope that the video quality is better. I've got a new format that I'm using. I'm not a video person. I don't know what I'm doing, so if the lighting's all funny, yeah, that's just the way it is. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll be back. Bye.